If I was to ask anybody in this community what their favourite toy was as a kid, I can almost guarantee, especially for Sideshed listeners, I can almost guarantee that over 90% of them would come back and say Lego. Lego really has formed the foundation for so much of our development as not only children, but of course as tradespeople. It's basically the stepping stones for us entering into a trade. You know, it's the first things we really start building when we're kids. There's Duplo, there's Lego, and it really does spark the imagination for kids all over the world. The reality is, however, as we get older, Lego doesn't necessarily become an option, and sadly, until we have kids, we sort of stop playing with it for a long time. I know personally, I love playing with Lego, and I have any opportunity I can, I'm all over it. And in today's episode, we're talking to a guy who does it for a living. So stay tuned, you're going to love this podcast, especially if you're a Lego fanatic like me. Well, it's the beginning of a new year, and typically at the beginning of a new year, as business owners, we sit down and we try to map out a success path or a blueprint for our organisations. The reality is, however, as tradies and contractors, many of us are lacking the foundational and fundamental tools that can really form the launchpad for our business. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys, and Tradie Web Guys build amazing websites that serve as a business launchpad. Perhaps you need to look more professional, or you need higher conversions from the leads you're currently getting with your marketing. Maybe you need some lead generation yourself, or maybe you need some sort of automation or a way that you can keep in contact regularly with your existing customers and with your leads that may one day turn into potential customers. Maybe you need systems and processes in your business. Tradie Web Guys specializes in all this stuff, and it's specific for tradies and contractors. So head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/shed from the site shed, where you can fill in a form and you can claim your free audit valued at $385. Again, that link is Tradie Web Guys, TRADIE Web WEBGUYS, tradiewebguys.com.au/shed, SHED for the site shed. The reality is, folks, if you want 2018 to be any different from 2017, then some things are going to have to change. Don't let 2018 become just another year. Make it the year.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Toolbox Talks on the Site Shed podcast. My name is Matt Jones, and I'm joining you today for a special episode. We have Ryan the Brickman McNaught. Welcome to the microphone.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Now, Ryan, it's probably fair to say that you've got the coolest job in the world. How about you tell the listeners out there a little bit about what you do for a living?
Sure. Well, I'm one of 14 in the world that is a Lego certified professional, and it's my job to put Lego models together. So, yeah, quite lucky, one might say. I thought astronaut was a cool job, but I'm pretty fortunate, I reckon.
I'll tell you, so obviously our community is heavily trade-based, builders, plumbers, electricians, and when I threw this out to social media that I'd be getting you on the show, there was a lot of jealous comments flying around, and then there was also a few questions that people had, which I'm going to get to in a little bit as well. But mate, welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
And I suppose in light of an upcoming event that you've got kicking off in Sydney as of the 26th of December, actually, that's Boxing Day. So the event is called Awesome, and it's going from the 26th of December through to February 4th at the Exhibition Centre, right?
Correct, indeed. Yeah, and then it tours on to Melbourne, Brisbane and Perth after that next year.
Oh, cool. And do you have dates for that yet, or is that still to be announced?
No, usually school holidays is when we tend to be around. So, yeah, usually school holidays. Not sure of exact venues. It all depends, which conventions we can fit in and all that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah, unreal. So I've never actually been to a Lego convention myself. Are we a little bit deprived here in Sydney of Lego shows?
Not really. No, I mean, this is our third show,
okay,
which has been to Sydney. So every year we come along and turn up in town and unveil the latest and greatest. Last year was our Wonders of the World exhibition, which, told everyone about Wonders of the World without having to leave town. You basically could save yourself $20,000 in airfares from flying everywhere to see Wonders of the World. And this year we've gone for Awesome, which is sort of a collection of things which, in my opinion, I think are pretty awesome. So it's good to be back in town again.
I mean, there's some crazy things going on at this this event, isn't there? I mean, I don't know how true it is, but I think I was reading either on one of the press releases or something. There's 1.5 million bricks that are being used in this exhibit. Is that right?
It is indeed. So we've used 1.5 million bricks in the last year building it, and there's another 1.5 million bricks of activities which kids and adults get to come along and do. So
wow.
A good example is our life-size Harley Davidson, which we've built. Now everyone loves a good bike, so we've got that made out of Lego bricks, and then we've put a couple of 100,000 bricks around that, where everyone that gets to come along gets to make their own bike and put it on display with ours.
Oh, wow. So, I mean, one of the questions that I had, although I do have, I suppose, I was going to lead into this, but we may as well jump to it now. I'm really curious as to, I mean, you guys do Lego on a scale that no one else very few people in the world do. How does the design work? I'm guessing it doesn't come with instructions out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, we'd love it if it did. It'd be like a filing cabinet size instruction book. If it did, it'd be pretty incredible. So, I mean, we'll take the Harley as a great case study. It's not the biggest in the exhibition by any stretch of the imagination, but basically the process is we contacted Harley and said, hey, look, we'd love to do a bike. No one's ever done a life-size Harley before, so, we think it'd be really cool. And it is an awesome thing. I mean, I'm sure plenty of your listeners, are into Harleys too.
Oh, yeah.
So, So we contacted them. We worked out which bike we were going to do. It's called a 48, which is one of their iconic models.
Yep.
When you look at it, it's a Harley sort of thing, Yep. So we went, sat down with them. They gave us some plans and drawings and that kind of stuff. So the first thing we do is we sit down and do some sketches and drawings. Basically plan it out, not brick by brick, but, this is where the fuel tank's going to go. This is, it's rough size. And then in the case of the Harley, where steel's going to go, the model doesn't need any steel in it, but what I wanted to do with this model is, of course, sit on it, because it wouldn't be really fun if you built a life-size motorbike and couldn't sit on it.
Gotcha.
So I wanted to sit on it, so I had to put a little bit of structure on the inside of it just to make it safe, that kind of thing. We don't want anyone getting hurt. And, and basically plan from there. And then after sort of, a week, it was, give or take, of planning and logistics and all that stuff, actually got down with the bricks and started building. And the way we approach the build is really simple. We do it one section at a time. So, for example, say in this instance, the front wheel, the back wheel, the engine block sort of thing, the seat, the tank, handlebars, gearbox, all these kind of things like that. We kind of sectionalise and then build each section as it goes. Now, if for those who are available, we've got a link to the time-lapse video of it, so you can see how we build it in the time-lapse video.
Yep.
So basically, it takes us a couple of weeks and we get cracking from there. So there's a bit of a process to it. It's not as simple as opening a box on Christmas Day like everyone's going to do with their Lego set and start doing it. There's, quite a bit of logistics behind it.
Yeah, cool. So I suppose taking it back a notch, let's go back to, I suppose, when you were a child. Who did you look up to and why?
Well, it's funny. My childhood idol was Dean Jones, the Australian cricketer.
Wow.
I wanted to open the batting for Australia. That was always my goal, and of course, you got absolutely no chance of doing that unless you're from New South Wales. So, Victoria, of course, I had no chance of that ever happening. So I kind of, get realism kicks in, and I went to school and stuff, and I did IT at after school and worked my way up through management and that kind of stuff. And, Lego is not a job that you really think, you can't go to uni to study Lego or go and get an apprenticeship as a Lego designer or anything along those lines. So it kind of just happened by accident, whereby I got twin sons, so two 10-year-old boys, and was just doing Lego with them. And some guys from Lego, they kind of looked online and seen the stuff that I was doing, and they said, let's do some stuff together. And it kind of went to some more stuff. And, before you know it, I was working the 10 hours a day and then going home and doing Lego for 10 hours a day and then trying to sleep and have kids and that kind of stuff. So, it kind of just happened. It's not something you really plan towards,
Yeah.
But, just luck, maybe, right place, right time, all those kind of things. So, very lucky.
So you're one of 14 certified Lego builders in the world, and you're the only certified Lego builder in the Southern Hemisphere. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah. So we get together once a year in Denmark, which is where Lego's from. Okay. We call it being beamed to the mothership. And we all get together and we talk all things Lego and do that kind of bits and pieces. And they want to make sure that we've still got what it takes. So luckily I've been doing it for 10 years now. Luckily the last 10 years they keep telling me I'm doing an okay job. So fingers crossed that keeps going.
Yeah, fantastic. I was a little bit surprised actually to hear that there was only one in the Southern Hemisphere. I would have thought there would have been at least a handful floating around, but
yeah, when you think about it, here in Australia, we're the most developed country in the Southern Hemisphere. So, South America's a bit of an emerging market, and sort of Africa's, on the cusp. It has some developed countries and others not. So,
Yeah.
The Southern Hemisphere, we really don't have a whole lot happening. My 13 colleagues, of course, up in the Northern Hemisphere are much luckier because it's only a short flight for them to get to Denmark, whereas, of course, we've got to trek halfway across the planet to get there.
Yeah.
So, they're quite lucky like that.
I could think of worse places to go, to be honest.
Well, it's funny because all the bricks come from there too. So I'm sure your fellow tradies know exactly what I'm talking about. I can't exactly nick to Bunnings to grab myself some Lego bricks. They have to come from Denmark. So when I place an order, the wait time's about sort of 3.5 months, give or take.
Oh, wow.
So I have to be well planned in advance to make sure my materials are here. So unfortunately, not so easy to nick out and grab a few bits and bobs.
So there was a question around that, where the logistics and that kind of thing. So when you're ordering Lego, so say for example this with the awesome event that's coming up, how did you know what you were going to need? How did you know how much you needed to order, and like how much in advance did you need to order it?
Yeah, so basically what we did is it's about a 12-month process for an exhibition like Awesome, just to give you a bit of a, rough idea.
Wow.
So we sort of sit down and go, well, what models are we going to make? Why do we think they're awesome? What's interesting about them? What are people going to like? How can people get involved in the models? And then we go, right, roughly this is what we need. Like any good tradesman out there, you talk to a builder that's been doing it for years. He knows how many bits of 4x2 he needs to build a house. Roughly off the top of his head, right? Sparky knows how many meters of wiring he needs. So roughly the same over the years. I've kind of developed that knowledge where I know roughly this is going to take X number of bricks, that's going to need Y number of bricks, et cetera, right?
Yep.
So basically I sort of work through the list of what it is that we're going to make and then sort of calculate a list from there. And we have to buy our Lego bricks like everybody else. So we consider ourselves to be Lego's best customer. Is sort of how we, how we kind of position ourselves. I mean, for example, like this show, to give people a bit of an idea, it's a 40-foot and a 20-foot shipping container full of Lego.
Jeez.
So you're talking about, pallets and pallets and pallets of Lego bricks. So, the actual order process, and I'm sure everyone here that's a parent on board a Lego set knows how expensive it is.
Mm.
So, we're talking about, the best part of, $1 million worth of Lego. So, it's quite a process, the whole ordering and logistics. And again, as I said before, the lead time, we have to make sure we've got what we need or else we're screwed. Yeah. We're quite lucky with Lego in that there's many different ways to skin a cat. Yeah. So if we never had a certain piece, well, we can go, hang on a minute, why don't we try something else instead or take a different design approach or whatever that. So that kind of happens quite regularly when we realise we don't have the perfect solution, but we can always make something that's kind of, no one would really know sort of thing. So, there's a bit of a process around it and certainly a fair bit of maths involved.
One of the questions while we're on that from our community was from Caitlin in the United States, and she was asked, she wanted to know how many, I don't know if you even know the answer to this, but I was curious myself, how many different pieces of Lego exist? Like as in different types?
How many different pieces?
Yeah.
So, look, it's changed over the years. So
I'm sure.
It peaked in the early 2000s at about 13,000 different Lego elements. Okay. And nowadays it's back down to about 8,000 different elements.
Oh, wow.
Now, what that means is, so let's say you got one piece. And here's some interesting talk, a bit of lingo here, a bit of Lego lingo. So if you think of a 2x4 brick, now we do the short side by the long side. So like timber, how you want a 2x4, for example, say. So we do the short side by the long side. So a 2x4 brick, which has got 8 little studs on the top.
Yep.
So one of those is a relatively common brick, and it's available in most colours. Lego's in about 30-odd colours, primary colours, whereas some elements only come in one colour.
Mm.
So not every piece comes in every colour, which makes it difficult sometimes when you're designing and building and that kind of stuff. So there's quite a few challenges around that of when we're designing something. If it's a white model, it's really simple, just about every piece comes in white, right? But if it's a crazy blue or red or something along those lines, we might not have all the pieces we need in all those colours. So certainly there's a lot of challenges around that. But it's about 8,000 pieces.
Does that mean in those instances that you would have to resort to painting or something like that, or do you just don't do it?
No, so that's an interesting one. So we have the hidden code, we have the secret rule book which we have to follow.
Okay.
So for example, we don't paint Lego. That's absolutely a no-no. No painting, no chopping, no cutting, no none of those kind of pieces. We're limited with the palette which we have, the Lego palette, and that's what we use. And that's what kind of makes our stuff special is we've got all these limitations.
Yeah.
So we don't order in special pieces or special colours or any of that kind of stuff. It's all standard stuff. And it's really quite inspirational for the kids. Look, let's be honest, kids, if you bought 25,000 Lego police stations, you could make this model, for example's sake, But it's a seed for kids to use what they've got, or to think about the challenges they've got and use their collection of pieces that they already have, which is the same problem we have too.
So, I mean, you touched on something a little bit before when you were saying you've got to buy all this Lego and it's basically an expense that you guys have to front. So how does it work from a business point of view? Do you have sponsors? And obviously there's ticket sales from exhibits, but I can't imagine that would cover the cost of the Lego itself.
So there's two parts to what we do. The first part is we do all the store displays. So if you go into Myers or David Jones or Toys R Us or any of those, you see those big Lego models that are in those stores. So that's part of our business, and we do that. And that's kind of like our bread and butter, if you like. That's our regular income that we get to sort of keep us going. And these exhibitions are really a chance for us and my team. I have 6 staff that work for me.
Yeah.
Us as a team to be able to get creative and build what we want to build and then show it off.
Cool.
So it's kind of a
branding
different
exercise
type of business, if you like. Yeah, well, yeah, kind of to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd like to think hopefully people enjoy it enough that they'll come along and buy a ticket and enjoy the show and have a good time and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of why we do it. That's not really about making a buck, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm with you. Now, I noticed as well, one of the questions through the group was they asked, what do you do with the displays after the exhibits are over? Yeah,
so our exhibitions, they tour forever.
Oh,
so
okay.
If we look at our first exhibition, which we did 4 years ago, it's now touring around Asia, for example. So the models have a shelf life of 10 years or whatever before they get pretty much destroyed or thereabouts. But we're forever repairing. The good thing with Lego is you can fix it easy, right?
Of course.
Bricks back on or whatever. So the exhibition has quite a life about it, and it tours around. And fortunately for us, the world's a big place, so exhibitions are for always going to a new market, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And when we're designing an exhibition, we think about that too. How are we going to travel this, that, what crates do we need to make for these models, all of that kind of stuff. So we really think long and hard about how the models are going to get used and travel around.
Yep. One of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, this is one of mine, but obviously your displays, do you glue them? Are they glued together?
Yeah, look, it depends on the model itself.
Right.
So we have different types of models. A good example is we have these ones, particularly in the new show, we have these ones called full public contact, which is basically where you can go up to it and get a photo with the kids next to it. Kids can hug it, they're kind of all over it.
Yeah.
And those models need to be glued together because of the sheer beating that they take from the general public. So we have those kind of models. Yeah, you can imagine it's like 50,000 kids climbing over your Lego model, right? So in those instances, absolutely, we glue them together.
Yeah.
It actually takes a lot longer to build a glued model because you've actually got to put a bit of glue on every brick and then stick it down.
Of course.
So it's quite a lot more laborious to do that, and we only do that when we absolutely have to. And the models don't need to be glued. They could just stick together, but, we want people to see the models, forever.
Yeah.
So therefore we'll glue them together in those. Other ones which might be behind glass, none of ours in this exhibition are, but some are in museums and galleries and bits and pieces like that. We don't have to glue them at all.
Yeah.
So there's two different answers, if you like.
So I suppose moving along a little bit, I'd like to talk about maybe the role that Lego plays with development and maybe even education. I know a lot of the listeners out there today will be saying like they'd be Lego mad, and I'll be honest with you, like I'm a grown man, and at any chance I get, if there's Lego involved, I'm all over it. So any kids that have birthdays, I'm buying Lego. Like I can't get enough of it. I'm curious though, from your experience, obviously somebody that works in it as a profession. What's your take on it from a children's development perspective?
Yeah, look, there's two angles to this, and I guess as a parent, first thing that I think about is I've got to get kids off devices, right? So get rid of screens and iPads and PlayStations and all these kind of bits and pieces. Now, having 2 10-year-old boys, that's always a challenge. So I really thought long and hard about how do we do that, right? The second part to the equation is how do we get children learning or being educated without them knowing they are? So if I say to my kids, hey, we're going to go and learn something about this today, the kids have already zoned out. The second I even got L out of learning, they've zoned out, right? So how do we do that? So a great example is our Wonders of the World show. So we call that education by stealth. So what we're doing is we say to the kids, hey, come and see the ancient wonders of the world, see gladiators and stuff like that, right? Now, my kids didn't have a clue what the ancient wonders of the world are, but because they're made out of Lego, the kids are all over them, trying to see what the gladiators do, what's happening on this model and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my kids actually learnt all about the 7 ancient wonders of the world by the Lego models themselves.
Brilliant.
You know, like my kids they'd never heard of the Mausoleum of Harlequinassus or the, Colossus of Rhodes, all these sorts of things, right? So we call it education by stealth. And in that exhibition, we were really able to get a lot of education content in without kids even knowing about it. And that's a win. That's an easy way to educate kids. So that's sort of how we've approached it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's brilliant. And you just touched on something then, which I was curious about. And I was reading some of the stuff on your website in relative to how you've, over the years, incorporated technology and stuff into your models. So the lights, for example, and the motorbike and all that kind of stuff. Have you seen a big segue over the years into technology entering into Lego, or is it pretty much as it was?
No, it's definitely changed a lot. I mean, if I look back when I was a kid playing with my pretty basic Lego bricks, things were pretty standard. There was occasionally you had a motor or something like that with your gears and cogs and those kind of things. Yeah. But nowadays, your Lego Mindstorms is full Bluetooth hooked up to your iPad to control robotics, which have servo motors and sensors and, temperature sensors, color sensors, all this kind of crazy technology stuff. So it's definitely evolved. But in saying that, in the same sentence, the Lego bricks that I use and in our exhibitions are exactly the same as they was in 1972. In some aspects, things have changed if you want to go down that path, or they can remain classic style, like how we use and what we use Lego bricks for in that aspect. So yes and no, I guess is the answer.
Because with some of these bigger models, I imagine, you often see the Lego parts with, Legos with moving parts and all that kind of stuff. I guess at the scale you guys are doing it at, the mechanism to facilitate that movement is a lot grander than, the Lego Technics thing you get out of a pack, right?
Yeah, well, a great example of that is one of the models in the show Awesome is Australia's tallest Lego model.
Yeah.
It's the NASA SLS rocket, which is going to take man to Mars, in a few years when they get the program up and going.
Yeah.
Now, it's 7.5 meters high and weighs just short of a ton, right? So when you're talking about this kind of engineering, real-life engineering, steel work on the inside, we've got to build it in sections. The lighting and sound system in it is pretty insane, trying to, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of, I won't say non-Lego, but a lot of other stuff that goes along with it to make sure it actually works and stays together and that kind of stuff. Now, this rocket, for example, it doesn't need any steel in it. But for child safety, as you can imagine what that thing would do if it fell on someone, right? So we're very much focused around making sure that whilst we're taking Lego to the extreme, it still remains safe and, all of those kind of things and easier to transport and that kind of stuff.
So is the steel that's in these models, is it, what kind of steel are we talking about? I mean, and how do you design that steel? And then how do you attach the Lego to the steel?
Yeah, so one of my team, Clay, he's a metal worker. So he's welding full on, proper gauge steel and stainless steel and all these kind of bits and pieces. And, we often use aluminium and things like that. So, as far as it's exactly like the type of steel that's used in building houses or, different engineering constructions. It's proper rated, steel. And part of the child safety legislation, which we comply to, because, these are exhibitions, has comments around that, we need to make sure that it's signed off by an engineer before it goes out on display. So there's a whole serious side that sort of sits behind it. In terms of the Lego connecting to it, the Lego actually doesn't. The way we do it is we wrap Lego around it.
Gotcha.
So whilst it's got a steel structure and a core in it, the Lego basically hovers around it. Because we don't need the steel, it's purely there as a safety backup. If you went and tried to push it over, it ain't coming down, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Because I imagine with some of the exhibits too, planes, and I saw you guys had a like one of those Star Wars fighter jet things on the on there as well. Like there have obviously got to be elements of that would have to be supported through, ropes or strings or wire or something, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of our models, we do a lot of hanging models above people's heads. And so as you can imagine, that kind of stuff needs to be safe and secure. So there's a whole process around that. We like to bring life to models, not just here's a model of a rocket, right? Or ours is blasting off, it's rust and smoke and, the whole shooting like that. And likewise when we do flying things, right?
Yeah.
For example, like we've done a huge big peregrine falcon, which is the fastest bird in the world, right?
Yeah.
We've got it in that pose just as it's about to strike with a full-on wings, 1.5 meters wide.
Wow.
So we like to push what it is, and to do that, obviously, to hang a bird like that, I mean, the bird weighs 25 kilos out of Lego, right?
Yeah.
So to do that, we need to make sure we've got the right rigging points and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, there's a whole process for that.
So within the business today, are you still very hands-on with the designing and building, or is your role sort of segued now more into the back-end business side of things?
No, so I'm still very much hands-on, and I'm positive a lot of your listeners will appreciate this.
Yeah.
I've capped my business at a certain size.
Yeah.
I could make it easily 3 or 4 times as big as it is, but all I would become is a people manager.
Improve the
and
headaches.
That's not really what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's not what I want to do. I love being hands-on. I love creating. I love, at the end of the day, seeing my work and being proud of my work. So that, to me, is really important. Sometimes I get stuck in front of a computer doing the BAS or, emails or whatever the case happens to be. But the other 4 days out of the week, I might be hands-on getting to do stuff. And that's the way I like it. And that's the way I want it to be.
Yeah, brilliant. And one of the questions I always ask guests on the show, if you could fix anything in the business with the wave of a magic wand, what would it be?
Paperwork. God almighty, would that be awesome to get rid of all the paperwork? That would be just incredible.
You'd be amazed.
I don't think I'm Robinson Crusoe in that one. I don't think I'm Robinson Crusoe there.
You'd be amazed at, actually, you probably wouldn't be amazed at how often that's the response I get when I ask that question. So I'm curious, getting towards the end of this now, Kurt, conscious of your time, a couple more questions. So what's the advice that you'd give to people that tell other people to grow up?
Don't. Follow your dream, you got to give it a crack. Now, I made the decision 10 years ago to go and do this as a full-time job. I would have hated to have been, 5 years ago and go, geez, I wish I had tried that. You may as well give it a crack. And you know what? If you fail, doesn't matter. I've failed at plenty of things in my life, but you keep on having a crack and eventually you get one. You find your niche and you find what you're good at, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And likewise, I've got a lot of friends, most of my friends are in the trades. It's about finding what you're really good at and working at that. So don't give up. That's it for me. You fail, so what? Learn from it and move on.
Yeah. And obviously, you guys do some pretty aggressive marketing, especially in the lead up to an event like Awesome. That doesn't happen by chance. You've obviously had some marketing experience there, or you put people in place that can sort of help you with that. Does Lego help you with that as well? Or obviously got your marketing team?
Yeah, well, we've been doing it for a while now, so we've sort of got our own customers, if you like, the general public and those kind of bits and pieces. But, we work pretty closely with Lego themselves, they're our best customer as well as I'm their best customer.
Yeah.
So we have a pretty good relationship around that. And, we like to uphold Lego's brand values and make sure that we're following the Lego way, so to speak, making sure we don't do sex, drugs, all those kind of things that aren't wholesome to children. So, yeah, we were okay with that. And I'm not a marketing person in any way, shape or form. So, yeah, we certainly have people to do that.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, look, I think we've pretty much got to the end of this. So I appreciate your time. And I suppose on the behalf of our community, just want to say good on you for getting out there and doing this. Parents love it. Adults love it. Everyone seems to love it.
Yeah, no.
So the event, once again, it's coming up at the end of the month. It kicks off on Boxing Day and it goes through to February 4. It's at the Exhibition Centre in Sydney, and then it's going to be moving around the country, Melbourne, Adelaide and Perth. Is that right?
Brisbane, Perth.
Brisbane and Perth. Okay. Brilliant. All right, fantastic. Well, I suppose the last question that I had here, which came from Nathan, and he didn't think I was going to ask it, but I'm going to. Do you still tear up when you stand on Lego?
Oh, for sure. Everybody does. And I was going to say, this is the season for it, right? As everybody on Christmas morning and they shake their presents and, little Lego bricks fall out everywhere. Good luck, Australia. That's all I can say is good luck.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose the whole... mate, I was wondering if you should go into some sort of partnership maybe with Dyson on some device that can stop Lego getting sucked up the vacuum cleaners.
It's funny you should say that. I met a lady once and, met a lot of parents, as you can imagine, and she charges her kids 20 cents for every brick that she sucks up. So, good luck with that, kids.
Pioneer.
Yeah.
Brilliant. All right, Ryan. Well, thanks for your time, mate. Much appreciated. We're going to be seeing you at the event in Sydney. We're going to be bringing a bit of a camera crew in there as well and doing some seeing what the kids all think. So stay tuned for that. Look forward to meeting you there. And, mate, thanks for your time.
No worries, Brick on.
Good on you, mate. See ya.
No, cheers.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to the siteshed.com where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.